Hidden among the rocky cliffs of southwestern Turkey, overlooking the winding Dalyan River, lie the ruins of Kaunos, a city that once commanded trade routes, minted its own currency, and stood as a powerful port in the ancient world. It thrived under Persian, Greek, and Roman rule, leaving behind grand theaters, temples, and rock-cut tombs fit for kings. But today, Kaunos is little more than a forgotten relic, a city that slipped through the cracks of history. How does such a place so rich in wealth, power, and influence simply vanish? Was it war? Disease? A shifting landscape that doomed its economy? For centuries, it remained buried, lost to time, until a chance discovery in 1840 uncovered its long-lost past. This is the rise and fall of Kaunos, the city that faded from the map. First, let's talk about the name. The Greeks called it Kaunos, the Romans stuck with Kaunos. But before Greek influence spread, the Carian people, who were the original inhabitants, had their own name for it, Kabid. We know this because of ancient coins and inscriptions, where they also referred to themselves as Kabdin. But as Greek culture took hold, Kaunos became the name that stuck. Now, the myths say that Kaunos wasn't just any city. A heartbroken prince founded. King Kaunos, grandson of Apollo, supposedly fled to escape his twin sister, Byblis, after she developed, let's call it complicated love for him. She chased after him, crying so much that her tears became a river. That river, the Kalbis, the lifeline of Kaunos. Whether you buy the legend or not, one thing is clear. Kaunos was a city shaped by both its geography and its destiny. Kaunos had it all. A prime location on the southwestern coast of modern-day Turkey, fertile lands, and a bustling port. By the 6th century BCE, the city was already making waves, literally. It was a major trading hub, exporting salt, dried figs, and pine resin, essential for shipbuilding. It even had its own currency, but being valuable also meant being a target. In 546 BCE, the Persians showed up. Under General Harpagus, they stormed through the region, and Kaunos put up a fight. Herodotus, the ancient historian, even wrote about how fiercely the Kaunians resisted before ultimately falling to Persian control. Despite their defeat, Kaunos remained culturally distinct. They weren't quite like their neighbors, the Carians and the Lycians. They had their own customs, including one that really stood out. Entire villages drinking wine together, men, women, and children included. Talk about a community event. Kaunos didn't sit quietly under Persian rule. When the Ionian Revolt broke out in 499 BCE, the city joined in, trying to shake off the Persian grip. It didn't work. The Persians crushed the rebellion, and Kaunos was back under their control. But things changed after Xerxes I lost the Second Persian War. With Persian influence fading, Kaunos joined the Delian League, an alliance led by Athens. At first, Kaunos paid just 1 talent in taxes to Athens, a manageable amount, but by 425 BCE, that number had skyrocketed tenfold. Why? Because Kaunos was booming. Its port was thriving, its trade was expanding, and its economy was flourishing. Greek culture was also taking over. The city started calling itself Kaunos instead of Kabid, and the myth of King Kaunos probably came from this period, a way to give the city a Hellenistic origin story. But then came another twist. In 387 BCE, the Peace of Antalcidas handed Kaunos right back to the Persians. This time, things changed fast. The Persian satrap Mausoleus, the guy who inspired the word mausoleum, thanks to his massive tomb, reshaped Kaunos completely. He expanded the city, built new defenses, and introduced Greek-style architecture. The city was growing, adapting, and thriving again. By 334 BCE, Alexander the Great had entered the scene. He took Kaunos with little resistance, and just like that, the Persians were gone for good. But this was far from stability. After Alexander's death, Kaunos became a prize fought over by his successors. The Antigonids, Ptolemies, and Seleucids all wanted control. Eventually, the Ptolemies won, and Kaunos became part of Egypt's growing empire. Fast forward to 189 BCE, and the Romans entered the picture. Instead of annexing Kaunos outright, they handed it over to Rhodes. The Rhodians taxed Kaunos heavily, and by 167 BCE, the city had had enough. Kaunos, along with other Anatolian cities, revolted. The result? Rome removed Rhodes from power, and Kaunos became part of the growing Roman Republic. Under Roman rule, Kaunos hit its peak. The city expanded, new temples were built, and Roman-style baths and fountains were added. The theater was enlarged, turning it into a major entertainment center. The port remained crucial for trade, and everything seemed to be going well. Until 88 BCE. That's when Mithridates VI of Pontus declared war on Rome, and Kaunos sided with him. They even went as far as killing all the Romans in their city. When the war ended in 85 BCE, the Romans didn't forget. They put Kaunos back under Rhodian control as punishment, and while the city recovered, the glory days were numbered. By 625 CE, things took a sharp downturn. Arab raids and pirate attacks made the city vulnerable. The 13th century brought Turkish invasions, weakening the economy further. Then the worst blow came in the 15th century, a deadly malaria outbreak. With trade declining and disease spreading, Kaunos was abandoned. And just like that, a city that had survived Persian conquests, Greek wars, and the Roman expansion was left to decay. The ancient harbor, once bustling with trade, silted up, cutting Kaunos off from the sea. The city was buried under vegetation, its once great name fading from maps. It stayed forgotten for centuries, until 1840, when British naval officer Richard Hoskins stumbled upon a tablet referring to the Council of Kaunos. His discovery led archaeologists back to the ruins, bringing the lost city back into the spotlight. But what remains today? Walk through Kaunos today, and you'll find a city frozen in time. The echoes of its grand past are carved into the cliffs, scattered across forgotten streets, and buried under layers of history. Let's start with the most famous site, the rock-cut tombs. Those dramatic temple-like facades carved straight into the cliffs above the Dalyan River. They were built for Kaunos elite between the 4th and 2nd centuries BCE. Think of them as VIP suites for the afterlife. With intricate columns, pediments, and reliefs, they mirror Hellenistic temple architecture, proving that even in death, the Kaunians wanted to make a statement. But here's the mystery. Many of these tombs were never finished. The carvings suddenly stopped, as if the builders just walked away. Were they abandoned due to war, disease? The answers still lie buried within the stone. Now, if you climb up from the tombs, you'll reach the acropolis, the heart of ancient Kaunos. Sitting atop a 152-meter-high rock, it was once a stronghold. The Byzantines built defensive walls here, reinforcing what was already a strategic position. From the top, you could see the ruins stretching below, the city that once commanded trade routes, now just a skeleton of its former self. To the north, the remains of a smaller fortress. Heraklion hinted at a time when Knossos had two ports, one to the south and one to the north, before the land shifted and the sea receded. And then there's the theater, built into the slope of the Acropolis, with a diameter of 75 meters and seating for 5,000 people. It's a masterpiece of both Hellenistic and Roman engineering. But this wasn't just for entertainment. Theaters in ancient cities weren't just places to watch a play. They were political arenas, places where people gathered for civic discussions. Standing in the center, you could almost hear the debates, the cheers, and maybe even the occasional scandal. Today, the theater is still used for performances, proving that after even thousands of years, Kaunos hadn't completely lost its voice. A little further down, and you'll find something unexpected: the Palaestra and Roman baths. The Palaestra, originally a training ground for athletes, was built over an earlier religious site. The baths, meanwhile, were designed to impress. They were a reminder of Rome's control over Kaunos. Massive frigidariums, tepidariums, and caldariums were covered in marble. Their scale meant to overwhelm, but time wasn't kind to them. In the Byzantine period, the frigidarium was converted into a church, and the grandeur of the baths slowly faded. Speaking of churches, Kaunos had its fair share. The domed church, built in the 5th or 6th century, is one of the best preserved examples of its kind in Anatolia. Constructed on the foundations of an even older building, its walls were likely covered in frescoes, now long gone. The apse still holds fragments of marble slabs decorated with crosses, silent remnants of the city's Christian era. Nearby, a mosaic floor has been uncovered, hinting at the artistic beauty that once adorned this space. If you follow the ancient streets, you'll reach the Port Agora, the bustling marketplace of Kaunos in its prime. This was the city's beating heart. Built in the 4th century BCE and active until the late Roman period, it was lined with pedestals that once held statues of powerful figures. But these statues are missing, likely melted down during the Byzantine era. Trade here slowed over time, not because of war, but because of nature. As the Dalyan River silted up, Kaunos' once thriving port became useless, and the city's economic foundation crumbled. The stoa, a long-covered walkway, provided shelter from scorching sun and pouring rain. Built in the 3rd century BCE, it was a place for business, politics, and daily life. And then there's the Nymphaeum, a Hellenistic fountain later expanded by the Romans. An inscription from Emperor Hadrian's time tells us something interesting. Kaunos was struggling with its silting harbor even then. To keep trade alive, Rome had to reduce taxes on merchants. It was a temporary fix for a permanent problem. The temples of Kaunos reveal even more about the city's shifting identities. There were at least 6, with the terrace temple standing out as one of the most intriguing. Built in the 3rd century BCE, it faced a mysterious circle of columns surrounding an obelisk that appeared on old Kaunian coins. Was this dedicated to King Kaunos himself? The evidence suggests so. Meanwhile, another temple on the temple terrace, dating to the 1st century BCE, was dedicated to Zeus Soteros, a clear nod to Greek influence. And if you step outside the city, Kaunos' past stretches even further. The Kaunos city walls, built in the 4th century BCE under Mausolos, are enormous, far too large for a city of this size. Why? Because Mausolos had big plans for Kaunos as a commercial hub. Some of the walls still stand today, running along the hills and providing a perfect hiking trail with breathtaking views. And then there are the niche tombs at Candir, remnants of an ancient burial tradition. The Greeks and Romans buried their dead far from their homes, and these tombs, carved into the rock faces, once held urns with the ashes of the deceased. But what really makes Kaunos special is the eerie sense that the past is still alive. These ruins aren't just stones and broken columns. They tell a story of resilience, reinvention, and ultimately abandonment. The harbor of Kaunos, once one of the Mediterranean's most important trade centers, is now Suluklu Lake, surrounded by marshland that attracts migratory birds instead of merchant ships. And finally, there's the Sanctuary of Demeter, one of the 7 in ancient Caria. Built on a small hill, it was once a place of devotion, where votive offerings were made to the goddess of agriculture. But as time passed, it too was forgotten. A church was built on the site in the early Christian period, but never completed. Kaunos is a city that refused to die quietly. Conquered, rebuilt, abandoned, and rediscovered, it holds onto its past with a stubborn grip. And even though its streets are empty and its harbor silent, its story isn't over. Now, if you made it this far, you clearly have a thing for lost cities. So do the ancient thing. Make your mark. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because history has plenty more secrets waiting to be uncovered. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.